Clemson fans, I am a little bit worried about the Tigers as they head to Atlanta this week. We're going to talk about that, but we got to start with what was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad half against Troy. Awful, awful performance, and really a pretty cloudy Saturday, both literally and metaphorically. So Clemson hosts Troy. Seems like a perfect game to sort of get back on track after losing to LSU. Maybe LSU is really, really good. Great flyover, great, hill and the fireworks, and brought my 2-year-old, and he was pretty wild. And then Troy got the ball. Quarterback Goose Crowder looked great. They go 4 for 4 on a 75-yard drive, pretty much all through the air. And they go up 7-0. Clemson gets the ball back, goes 3 and out. And then there's a 90-minute rain delay, and half the folks had to go home. So not really an ideal Saturday in terms of experience. But then on the field for the rest of the half, once they finally resumed, it was pretty sloppy. So what did we learn from this game? And I guess maybe I should recap a little bit more of the first half. But what stood out to me from a negative was really the offensive line and Cade Klubnik and their struggles in that first half. Klubnik was late again on a lot of throws. I counted more than 3, but once I saw it reoccurring, I started making a point to write it down, which specific places he late on. And there were 3 more from that point forward that stood out to me in the first half. One was to Tyler Brown, where he was like a full second or 2 late. Tyler Brown was on the right side running a drag route across the middle, so to the left. He was open. Klubnik was slow to get it to him. By the time he finally got it to him, Brown got drilled as soon as he caught it, or was about to catch it, and didn't catch it. In terms of helping the team, it was good that there was a targeting penalty, but he really, really could have got Tyler Brown hurt there. It looked pretty nasty. I was actually surprised that Brown hopped up as quick as he did. He rolled around for a while, so not quick per se, but it looked really bad. Seems like he's okay, though, so thank God for that. But then again later, TJ Moore had a similar route, like kind of an in-breaking route, and the throw was a little late, and Moore got hit and didn't make the catch as a result. That one wasn't as kind of gnarly looking, and it wasn't a targeting penalty, but again, he was late. And then maybe even worse than either of those was a little behind the line of scrimmage screen pass to Tristan Smith. Great setup, gave Clemson their first touchdown. It ends up getting pulled off the board upon review because the throw was low, and it made Tristan Smith get down on one knee to catch it, and he was already down when he caught it. So just a really sloppy performance by Cade, and it's weird because he finished last season so well against Texas. He played poorly against South Carolina, but he was also great against SMU. And the season as a whole, especially post-Georgia, was good. It seemed like he was just kind of trajectory going up. But that's, it seems like that's now reset. And we're back to, the Georgia game version of Cade. So maybe that's just a tough opponent. Maybe he was reading his own press clippings a little too much, then kind of overlooked Troy. But now there's no more messing around because this Georgia Tech team is a serious threat. And so we'll get into that in just a second. The defense, though, I thought was really impressive. Troy did not really run the ball in Clemson. They finished with only 78 rushing yards total in the game on 32 rushes, which is 2.4 yards per carry, so not great. So good to see Clemson's defense pretty much stifle them. There was a bad blown coverage by Jamal Anderson, which led to their first touchdown. But by and large, they had 3 picks. Clemson's defense looked good. The Tom Allen effect on this defense has been tremendous. They look a lot better. So that's probably the biggest encouragement. Ricardo Jones looked really good. He had the fumble recovery against LSU, and then he had an interception in this game. He left with an injury, and I don't have any update, at least as of this recording Sunday night, on if he's okay. Hopefully he is, because he's become a pretty important part of this defense. Clemson falls down 16-0. They were fortunate, though. The momentum started to turn at the end of that first half. They get a field goal. Troy should get a field goal, but they completely just totally mismanaged the clock there. There was nearly 30 seconds left. They could have called a timeout, maybe run 1 or 2 more plays to maybe take a shot of the end zone, maybe take a sideline shot to get a little closer. They instead just let almost all the clock run out. Then they have to attempt a 50-plus yard field goal, and they miss it. Really should have gotten 3 more points there. They also missed another field goal. They had like 3 or maybe 4 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Just really, really silly stuff. They really could have made it tough for Clemson to come back, even when Clemson started outplaying them in the second half. But they kind of left that door open. And to Clemson's credit, they came roaring back. They finally, after 6 quarters of just like not really running the ball at all, no effectiveness, and sort of like giving up because they have no hope of running the ball because they've been bad at it. They finally said, hey, like we have to figure this out if we're going to be a good team. They gave it to Adam Randall again and again and again. And very quickly, that offensive line looked better. They ran the ball. That first drive, Adam Randall had 19 first-half rushing yards. Then in the second, and he had a terrible fumble too. He looked pretty bad. But then in the second half, 7 of 9 plays on that first drive were runs. I think it was all Randall, or close to all Randall. He had a 30-yard run that really swung the momentum. He had a 1-yard touchdown run that cut the lead to 16-10. Then there was an interception, and then kind of quick touchdown passes by Klubnik as he looked better, and they scored 27 straight points. Randall finishes with 112 rushing yards. So that's encouraging. And we said, hey, look, the one thing we want to see is Clemson run the ball with authority, offensive line winning the trenches. They failed miserably in the first half. But, hey, look, in the second half, that's exactly what they did. So is that what we're going to see against Georgia Tech? Defense looked good, as I mentioned. Ronan Hannafin had another great game. He did get beat on another juke move, which I think that's happened both one each game and also going back to spring game, so a little susceptible to that. But he was great. Pick, six tackles, thought he was awesome. Helt and Parker each had a sack. Parker hasn't really blown me away so far this season, at least given all the hype, but Helt has 2 sacks now, and Parker at least has 1. Jerry Alexander finally has his first tackle. Ashton Hampton had an interception, so that was the 3rd pick. Thought he's great, and with Ricardo Jones and Hampton being so good, and really Khalil Barnes and Avion Terrell are sort of the stars of the secondary, and Barnes was out, but that's a pretty deep secondary to have those 4 guys being that good. So that's encouraging. But again, concerns on the offensive line. They still haven't found a cohesive 5 guys. Braden Jacobs came in, which I thought was exciting, and was kind of hoping for that, thinking, hey, this guy's got the talent. Really think he can elevate this offensive line. Well, he got beat pretty bad. At least one occasion, he got completely turned around, like turned backwards and then fell on the ground. So maybe he's not quite ready yet, or maybe that was just a poor showing. I don't know. But I think the big question is, did we see something in the second half that's Clemson now? It took 6 quarters of bad football, but now it's clicked, and that offense is good. I shouldn't say bad football, bad offensive football. Defense has been good. But has the offense clicked? Cade wasn't late. He wasn't missing open guy or not seeing open guys. He looked good in that second half. Is that Cade that we were expecting? Is he back and locked in, or is it just because we played Troy that it wasn't so hard to get locked in because Wesco can get open so easy, right? Now next week, as we kind of turn our attention to Georgia Tech, this is no easy task here. Georgia Tech has really impressed me. They beat Colorado, who I don't think is particularly good, and it seems like Colorado's already switched their starting quarterback, so perhaps Georgia Tech didn't even see the best version of them. But GT had 3 turnovers, first 3 possessions, still go on to win that game. That's impressive to overcome that. They blew out Gardner-Webb 59-12 this week. I don't know if it's super impressive to beat Gardner-Webb, but you're taking care of business. And they did it without Haynes King, their starting quarterback, who was hurt, but basically they arrested him to have him 100% for Clemson. Smart move, taking advantage of depth at quarterback. Aaron Philo was great, 21 for 28, 373 passing yards, 1 TD, 1 pick. Great showing from him. You got to be encouraged if you're a Georgia Tech fan for the future there. But the thing that Georgia Tech does so well is they run the ball. They averaged 8 yards per carry against Gardner-Webb, 223 yards. And they're doing that without their great rushing threat at quarterback in Haynes King, who, obviously he's going to add rushing yards himself, but he's also going to kind of open up other things for the offense. They ran for 320 on the ground against Colorado. Haynes King had 156 of those yards, and the team averaged 6.8 yards per carry. Haynes King wasn't even there against Gardner-Webb. Now, I would assume going to be back against Clemson. Clemson's been stopping the run way, way better. I really believe that Tom Allen flipped that culture on the defense. They have them focused, prideful, working harder than, self-motivated player led. All of that stuff I think is real. I think this Clemson defense is good. And I think even decent against the run, but we're going to find out real quick because if there are still major vulnerabilities against the run, Georgia Tech's probably the best rushing attack in the ACC, one of the best in the country. I think it's not a mirage. They're really good at running the ball. They've got an offensive lineman as their head coach. They, beat Clemson for Keeneland Rutledge, star guard who Clemson could really use right now that they got not this season, but the season prior from Middle Tennessee State. They're a good offensive line. They're a good running back. Jamal Haynes is very good. They're going to be tough. They're going to be really tough. And their defense, Georgia Tech's defense, has allowed 26 points through 2 games. It's a lot better than we expected. Now, they haven't really faced much, right? Colorado, I think we knew was going to be pretty weak on offense, losing Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, and so much. And I think, Gardner Webb is Gardner Webb. So we don't know for sure that this Georgia Tech defense is good, but it's awfully scary. And I think as Clemson goes to Atlanta, you got to be wondering, is the Clemson we saw for the first 6 quarters of this season the real Clemson, or the second half against Troy the real Clemson? Is it the one that we saw nearly beat Texas, or the one that could hardly score points against South Carolina at home? Is it the one that lost, 3 straight three straight home games against Power 4 opponents because they lost to Louisville, South Carolina, and then LSU? Is that them? Or is it, the one that beat SMU and had that dominant first half? You really don't know who's going to show up for Clemson right now. And I feel like Clemson has become one of the harder teams to get a feel for early in this season. So it's a noon game on ESPN. I think it's really a toss-up right now. I don't have to make my pick until Thursday when David Hood reaches out and gathers those for TigerNet. If you ask me now, I would say Georgia Tech. Maybe my mood will change as it nears. We'll see kind of health-wise. Is Ricardo Jones back? Is Walker Parks back? Who's starting on the offensive line? Some questions we still are sorting out, and maybe that'll change my mind. But right now, look, I think Clemson's definitely more talented. I think Cade Klubnik has more upside. But look, today, Haynes King's the better quarterback, at least from what we've seen so far in one game versus Klubnik's 2. Running back, Jamal Haynes is, I think, without a question, the stronger running back. Defense, Clemson's probably a little bit better on defense, but look, Georgia Tech's looked quite good on defense. Colorado only scored 20 despite getting 3 turnovers, so Georgia Tech's defenses look great. Offensive line, it's absolutely Georgia Tech. So, look, I think it's a toss-up, and we're going to find out a lot about Clemson this week, and certainly winnable. But this is sort of the key point of the year. Is Clemson going to shake off the early struggles, put the non-conference loss, really non-conference 2 games behind them? Because, honestly, they matter a lot less than conference play in this new format. Clemson could roll through an ACC that looked really bad this week, going 0-5 against Power 4 opponents. Or maybe not. Maybe this is kind of like 2021 where they enter the year with a lot of hype and they're not very good. We don't know. But what's crazy about all of this is Clemson brought back more production than anyone. Kind of like Arizona State. I think they were number 2 in returning production. It seemed like those 2 teams had a higher floor than anyone. But Arizona State just lost at Mississippi State. Pretty bad loss. Clemson struggled with Troy, lost to LSU. LSU just went out and bought a whole new team through the portal, and look, it worked. So a little discouraging that Clemson can take a couple of years to not be as good, build up some guys, have a lot of seniors, invest in them, and another program can just go buy a new roster and it's already better and beating Clemson in Death Valley. So we'll see. Maybe that was just first game. Things were a little off. Made their adjustments. Coach Sweeney or the Clemson lately, last several years, has not been good in openers or after open dates. So maybe there's just a little something to that right now the program's not very good when you give them a little extra time, or at least not as good as other programs. Maybe there's something there, and this Clemson team is better than we think. We just saw them at what is now becoming habitually a bad spot. Openers, they've lost 3 in a row, 4 out of 5. Coming out of open dates, I think that's kind of the same idea. Coach Sweeney's talked about how openers are tough because you don't have good tape on the opposing team. Certainly LSU, basically a new team rebuilt through the portal, didn't have really any useful tape. And so maybe there's a lot there. And this Clemson team could be good as long as you're not catching them in those weak spots. So we're going to find out a lot. We're going to learn a lot more about Clemson against Georgia Tech than maybe we have so far this season. So check that out. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. I appreciate Clemson fans, Georgia Tech fans, everyone across the ACC. I know a lot of LSU fans subscribed and liked last week, so thank you for that. But yeah, joining the channel. I appreciate it. And as always, go Tigers. Thank you to our sponsor, Ready Vets. If you live in the upstate and have a dog or cat that needs immediate care, Ready Vets is the place to go. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe.